My daughter put my name on a waitlist for a memory care facility without telling me. By the time I found out, I was already third in line. So I called my lawyer, changed every document with her name on it, and left her a voicemail she'll never forget. She didn't tell me until a Tuesday. She came over the way she always does when she needs something early, uninvited, carrying coffee from the good place downtown like it was a peace offering before the war. She set the cup on my kitchen table, pulled out the chair across from mine, and said, "Mom, I need to talk to you about something I've already handled." Those last 3 words. I've already handled it. Linda has been handling things since she was 17 and decided she knew better than everyone in the room. I used to call it confidence. I used to be proud of it. I don't know what I call it anymore. She told me calmly, in the same voice she uses for difficult clients at her firm, that she had toured a place called Meadow Ridge about 6 weeks ago. Beautiful facility, she said. Private rooms, a garden, activities every afternoon. She said she had spoken with the admissions coordinator, submitted the initial paperwork, and put down a deposit to hold my spot on the wait list. I remember the exact feeling that passed through me. Not anger, not yet. Something quieter, like watching a door close from the wrong side. "You didn't ask me," I said. She folded her hands on the table. "I knew you'd resist." "You didn't ask me," I said again. She exhaled through her nose. "Mom, the list is long. These things take time. I was being proactive. You should be thanking me." I looked at her over my coffee cup. I didn't say another word. I just looked at her until she picked up her phone and started scrolling, which is what Linda does when she wants to signal that a conversation is over. She left an hour later. I stood at the window and watched her back out of the driveway in that silver car she leases every 3 years, because she says owning is inefficient. I thought about the word proactive. I thought about what it means to plan your mother's disappearance while she's still in the house. Then I went to the phone and called Caleb. He picked up on the second ring, the way he always does when it's me. "Hey, Grandma Dot." 24 years old, and he still calls me that, the same way he did at 6, dragging out the second syllable like it was something sweet. "Are you free this week?" I asked. He paused. "What did Mom do?" I almost laughed. "What makes you think it was your mother? Because you only call like that when it's something serious, and I haven't done anything serious in at least a month." I told him I'd explain when I saw him. We made a plan for Thursday. In the meantime, I sat with it. I am 68 years old. I taught 4th grade for 22 years, then spent another decade working at the County Literacy Foundation before I retired. I live alone in the house where Linda and her brother grew up, the same house Robert and I bought in 1987, with a down payment we'd saved for 6 years in a cookie tin above the refrigerator. Robert passed in 2019. I cleaned out his closet on a Saturday morning in February, gave his boots to the church, kept his flannel jacket, and kept living. That's what you do. I still drive myself everywhere. I garden. I read 2 books a week. I take a water aerobics class on Mondays and Thursdays, and I have never, not once, missed an appointment or forgotten where I parked or left the stove on. I am not confused. I am not a liability. I am not third on a wait list. The thing about Linda is that she learned to frame control as love somewhere along the way and never unlearned it. It started small after Robert passed. She began stopping by more, which I appreciated. Then she began making suggestions, which I tolerated. Then she began making decisions, which I let go more than I should have because I was tired and grieving, and she seemed so certain. She convinced me to let her review my accounts. "Just to keep an eye on things," she said, "in case anything looks off." I'd just turned 66, and the word estate planning had started appearing in every other conversation we had. I didn't want to be the difficult one, the mother who made everything harder, so I signed the form her financial planner sent over and handed her what felt like a small thing. It wasn't small. Over the next 2 years, she started redirecting my mail to come digitally, to an email address she managed for me. She scheduled my doctor's appointments and came with me to half of them, sitting in the corner with her notepad like a translator at a summit. She arranged for a cleaning service to come every other week, which I didn't ask for and didn't want, but which I also didn't cancel because she paid for it herself and said it was a gift. Each thing on its own seemed like kindness. Together they formed something else, a net, tightening slowly enough that I didn't notice until I was already inside it. Caleb came Thursday evening with takeout from the Thai place on Elm that I've loved since before he was born. We sat at the kitchen table and I told him everything. He listened the way his grandfather used to, still, without interrupting, letting the silence after each sentence do its work before moving on. When I finished, he set down his fork. "She did the tour 6 weeks ago," he said. Not a question. That's what she said. He was quiet for a moment. Then, carefully, "I knew she'd been researching places. I saw a brochure in her car a few months back. I thought it was for a client." He looked at me. "I'm sorry, Grandma Dot. I should have said something. You didn't know." Still, he rubbed the back of his neck, the same gesture his mother makes when she's uncomfortable, and I felt the strange tenderness of watching a family's habits pass from one generation to the next without permission. "What are you going to do?" "That's what I'm deciding." We talked for 2 hours. By the time he left, I had a clearer sense of exactly what had been taken and what I was going to take back. The next morning, I drove myself to First Community Bank on Lakeview and asked to speak with someone about account access permissions. The woman at the desk was perhaps 40, efficient and unhurried. I told her I needed to review who had visibility on my accounts and make changes effective immediately. We went through it together. Linda had been listed as a secondary account holder on my primary checking account since 2021. She had view-only access to my investment account and, I learned, had been copied on my monthly statements for nearly 3 years. I removed every bit of it. I changed my email contact to a new address that only I controlled. I set up phone alerts for any transaction over $50. The woman at the desk asked twice if I was certain. I told her yes, both times, without elaborating. She didn't need my reasons. My name is on every one of those accounts. I walked out into the late morning air feeling the way a window feels after someone finally opens it. The next call I made was to Margaret, my attorney. I've known Margaret for 12 years. She handled Robert's estate and she knows me well enough not to ask unnecessary questions. I told her I needed an appointment as soon as possible to review my power of attorney, my will, my healthcare proxy, all of it. She had an opening the following Monday. "I want you to understand what was in those documents before I changed them." After Robert died, Linda had suggested, gently and repeatedly, that I update everything to reflect my new situation. She helped me find an attorney, went with me to the first appointment, sat in the room while we talked. The attorney who drew up the papers was someone she'd found through her firm. I signed documents naming Linda as my primary power of attorney for both finances and healthcare decisions. I named her executor of my estate. It had felt practical at the time. It had felt like love. Now it felt like something else. Before my appointment with Margaret, I did what I always do when I need to think clearly. I made a list. I sat at the kitchen table with a yellow legal pad and wrote at the top, what I have given Linda, not what she'd asked for. What I'd given, 2019. Covered Linda's portion of Robert's funeral costs when she said cash flow was tight, $4,200, 2020. Paid off the balance on a credit card she'd maxed during her kitchen renovation, $8,700. She said she'd pay me back. She did not. 2020. Bought new bedroom furniture for her guest room before the holidays because she mentioned in passing that it looked shabby, $100. 2021. Co-signed on a small business loan for her side venture that lasted 8 months, $15,000 that I absorbed when it folded. 2022. covered Caleb's spring semester tuition shortfall when Linda said there had been a miscommunication with financial aid. $6,400. 2022. New water heater for Linda's house when hers went. $3,800. A gift, she said, not a loan. 2023. Contributed to the down payment on her vacation property, framed as an investment we'd share. $22,000. My name is not on the deed. 2024. Deposit at Meadow Ridge facility, paid with my own money, which she had access to. $2,500. Total, $64,700. Plus years of early mornings, late pickups, childcare summers, holiday meals I cooked alone, and the careful, consistent act of swallowing my own preferences so she wouldn't have to feel inconvenienced. I underlined the last entry twice. Then I closed the pad. It wasn't a document I planned to wave at anyone. It was just something I needed to see in full. The way you sometimes need to lay out the contents of a drawer before you can decide what to keep. On Saturday morning, Linda called. "I want to check in about Meadow Ridge," she said. "I heard back from the coordinator. You've moved up to second. I think we should go tour together. I think you'd really like it if you gave it a fair chance." I set down the book I was reading and took a breath. "I won't be touring Meadow Ridge," I said. A pause. "Mom, I withdrew from the waitlist yesterday." Silence. Then, "You can't just do that. There's a process." I called the coordinator directly. "It's done." Linda's voice shifted into the register she uses when she's managing someone. Calm, measured, slightly elevated. "I understand you're upset, but I need you to hear me. I have been watching you for 2 years, and I have concerns, real concerns, and I'm trying to handle this before what?" She didn't answer immediately. "Before it becomes an emergency," she finally said. "Before something happens and we've waited too long." "Nothing has happened, Linda. Nothing is happening. I am 68 years old, and I am standing in my kitchen, and I drove myself to the bank this week, and I have not once, in my entire life, given you reason to believe I cannot manage my own affairs. It's not about that." "Then what is it about?" She was quiet again, and in that quiet, I heard it the thing she hadn't said yet. I heard it the way you hear something you've known for a while but haven't been willing to name. "Is the vacation property in foreclosure?" I asked. The silence that followed was answer enough. I didn't push. I just said, "We'll talk when you're ready to be honest," and I ended the call. I sat down at the kitchen table. Outside, a car passed slowly. A child on a bicycle wobbled down the sidewalk. The world kept its ordinary pace. She hadn't been planning for my decline. She had been planning for her own rescue. The Meadow Ridge deposit, the financial access, the careful architecture of my dependence. It wasn't protection. It was a plan. Move me out, sell the house, or leverage it, solve the problem she'd built for herself and couldn't fix alone. I didn't feel betrayed the way you feel betrayed, in the dramatic sense, blindsided, shattered. I felt the quiet, heavy version, the kind that comes from realizing the story you've been telling yourself about someone was missing its most important chapter. Caleb called that evening. He'd heard from his mother. "She said you withdrew from the list," he said. "I did." She also said he stopped, started again. "Grandma Dot, I need to tell you something. I didn't want to say it Thursday because I wasn't sure, but I've been thinking about it." "Go ahead." He exhaled. "The vacation house. Mom and Tom have been arguing about it for months. I heard Tom say they were 3 payments behind, and last winter, when she was helping you with your accounts, she transferred money twice, and I saw it on a statement she left on the counter. I thought maybe you'd asked her to, but now I'm not sure." I was quiet for a long moment. "How much?" I asked. "One was $4,400. One was $6,000. I wrote it down on the legal pad. I would verify it myself in the morning, but I already knew what I would find. You did the right thing telling me, I said. I should have said it sooner. You said it now. That's what matters. He offered to come over. I told him I was fine, which was true, and that I preferred to sit with it alone for the evening, which was also true. Some things need to be understood in quiet before they can be handled in noise. I made chamomile tea and sat in the armchair by the front window, Robert's chair, actually, but I'd claimed it in the years since he left. Outside, the neighborhood settled into its evening routine. Porch lights came on. A dog barked twice and then was quiet. A couple walked past with a stroller, the baby asleep, heads bent together. I thought about all the different ways love gets bent out of shape over time. How it starts genuine. Linda had been genuinely frightened after her father died, genuinely trying to hold things together in her own way. Fear, I think, was at the beginning of all of it. Fear of loss, of chaos, of things going wrong. But fear is not an excuse, and good intentions don't balance accounts. I thought about what I wanted, not what was fair, not what I was owed. What I wanted. I wanted my own house, my own name, my own silence on my own terms. I wanted to stop feeling like a resource being managed. I wanted to be known, not categorized. I wanted my grandson to call me Grandma Dot for decades more, and I wanted to be the one to answer the phone. That was enough to know. Monday morning, I walked into Margaret's office at 9 sharp, with my folder under my arm, and my mind made up. Margaret is a small woman, precise. With reading glasses she keeps on a chain around her neck like punctuation. She looked up when I came in and said nothing, just gestured to the chair across from her desk. That's what I've always liked about Margaret. She doesn't fill silences with comfort. She lets them be what they are. I told her everything, not the emotion of it, just the facts, the waitlist, the financial access, the transfers, the vacation property, Caleb's account. The totals on my legal pad, she wrote as I talked. When I finished, she took her glasses off her chain and put them on. What do you want changed? She asked. Everything with Linda's name on it. She nodded. Replacement? Caleb. He doesn't know yet. I want to speak with him first, but yes. She looked at me for a moment. Not with pity, Margaret doesn't do pity, but with something steadier. Recognition, maybe. I'll have the drafts ready Wednesday, she said. We'll do everything at once. Power of attorney, healthcare proxy, will, all of it. I'd like to add one more thing, I said. I'd like to verify whether any unauthorized transfers were made from my accounts, and if so, what my options are. She wrote that down without blinking. I have someone for that, she said. I'll make a call. I left her office at 10:15 and stood on the sidewalk for a minute in the pale autumn sun. The street was ordinary. Traffic, a woman walking a dog, a delivery truck idling outside the florist. Nothing had changed out here. Everything had changed somewhere inside me. I called Caleb from the parking lot. He answered on the first ring this time. I need to ask you something important, I said, and I need you to think carefully before you answer. Okay, he said. If I named you on my legal documents power of attorney, executor, healthcare decisions, would you take that seriously? He was quiet for a few seconds, not the silence of someone caught off guard, the silence of someone deciding how to say a true thing well. Yes, he said, I would. You'd be honest with me? Always. You wouldn't make decisions without asking me first? Never. A pause. I know that's what this is about. Then I'd like to speak with you this week, in person. He came Wednesday evening. We sat at the kitchen table again. Same chairs, same lamp, different conversation. I told him about the documents. I told him what I'd found when I verified the account transfers Margaret's contact had confirmed 2 withdrawals totaling $10,400 initiated by Linda from the account access I'd since revoked. I told him about the legal steps I was considering. Caleb listened to all of it the way his grandfather used to listen. The whole thing, no interruptions, No rush to fix what wasn't finished yet. When I was done, he said, "She's my mother. I want you to know I'm not choosing sides." "I know," I said. "I'm not asking you to." But what she did, he stopped. "I can't say it's okay." "No," I agreed, "it isn't." He looked at the table for a moment. "I'll do right by this. I'll do right by you, I promise." I believed him. Not because he was young and earnest, though he was both. Because I'd known him his whole life, and I knew the shape of his character, the way you know a piece of furniture you've had for years, its weight, its grain, where it holds, and where it gives. "There is one thing," he said carefully. I waited. "What about Mom?" I folded my hands in my lap. "Your mother and I will have a conversation. Eventually. When she's ready to be honest and I'm ready to hear it." I paused. "But that conversation doesn't change the documents." He nodded slowly. "Family and accountability," I said, "are not opposites." He nodded again. Then he looked up. "Can I ask you something?" "Yes." "Are you okay?" "Not the legal stuff. Just are you okay?" I thought about it honestly. "I'm clearer than I've been in 3 years," I said. "I wouldn't call that okay exactly, but it's something better." We had dinner. He washed the dishes without being asked, dried them, put them in the right places, which he's always known because he spent enough summers here to memorize this kitchen like a map. When he left, he hugged me at the door the way he did when he was small, both arms, no reservation. I stood in the doorway and watched his car pull away. Then I went inside and locked the door behind me. Not out of fear, just because it was late, and it was mine to lock. Linda came the following Saturday. She didn't call ahead, which meant she already knew the bank access was gone, and she was hoping that showing up would change something my voicemail hadn't. I was on the porch with my coffee when she pulled in. She got out looking tired. Not tired the way people look after a bad night's sleep, but tired the way people look after a long season of managing something they can't control and won't admit. She came up the porch steps and I didn't stand. "Mom," she said. "Linda." She sat in the other chair. We were quiet for a moment, which would have been unusual once and wasn't anymore. "You changed the accounts," she said. "I did. And the documents. Those too." She looked at her hands. "I made mistakes. I waited. The money she started. I was going to pay it back. I was going to tell you. I just needed time to sort out the property situation. And She stopped. "I didn't think you'd notice." I looked at her steadily. I noticed. She pressed her lips together. "I was trying to keep everything from falling apart." "Who's everything?" She didn't answer. "Linda," I said, not harshly, just clearly. "You moved money out of my accounts without asking me. You put my name on a facility waitlist without telling me. You arranged the architecture of my dependents while I was still standing in my own house. None of that is keeping things from falling apart. That is building a structure that serves you and calling it care." Her eyes filled. "I do care about you." "I know you do," I said, "and I'm telling you that caring about someone doesn't grant you authority over them." "I was scared," she said quietly. "After Dad died, everything started feeling, I don't know, unstable. And you were alone. And I kept thinking, what if something happens and I haven't prepared?" "So you prepared without asking the one person the preparation was for." She was quiet. "I'm not a variable in your plans, Linda. I'm your mother." I let that sit for a moment. "And I need you to hear this clearly. I am not in decline. I am not on my way out. I am 68 years old, and I have not asked you to manage my life. I have only ever asked you to be in it." She wiped her eye with her wrist. For a moment she looked very young, the way grown children do sometimes when the performance drops. "What happens now?" she asked. "That depends on you," I said. "I'm not interested in punishment. I'm not interested in going over the accounting at Thanksgiving or making this the centerpiece of every family gathering for the next decade. But I'm also not going back to the way things were. The access is gone. The documents are changed. Those aren't negotiations." She nodded slowly. The property situation, I said, is yours to solve. I can't help you with it. Not because I don't love you, but because every time I've helped you solve a problem without being asked whether I should, something has been lost. She was quiet for a long time. Then, Caleb's on the documents now. It wasn't a question. I didn't answer it. He'll be fair, she said finally, and it cost her something to say it. He will, I agreed. We sat on the porch for a while longer. Not warmly, but not coldly either. Somewhere in the honest middle that families rarely find their way to and more rarely hold. When she left, she hugged me at the steps. A different kind of hug than usual, less performance, more apology. I accepted it for what it was. I went back inside. The house was quiet in the way it's been quiet since Robert left, not empty, just spacious, enough room to think. On the kitchen counter, there was an envelope I'd received 2 days earlier. Inside it was a letter from Meadow Ridge confirming the refund of my deposit, $2,500, returned to my account in full. Below it was the form Linda had filled out on my behalf, my name in her handwriting in the applicant field. I held the letter for a moment. Then I put it in the file I've labeled things that have been resolved. Not forgiven, not forgotten. Resolved. There's a difference, and at my age, I've earned the right to know it. The following week, I drove myself to water aerobics on Monday morning. Afterward, I stopped at the farmer's market on the way home and bought 2 pounds of apples and a jar of honey from the man who's been selling it there since before his beard went gray. He wrapped the jar in paper and wished me a good week. I told him likewise. I went home and made tea and sat at the kitchen table with my book. Outside the window, the maple in the front yard had started to turn, orange at the tips, still green at the center, the whole thing in the middle of becoming something else. There's a week, every fall, when it looks like that neither one thing nor the other, caught between what it was and what it's about to be. I've always thought that week was the most beautiful one. Caleb came over the following Sunday, and we signed everything at Margaret's office together. He was nervous in a way he tried to hide and did not quite succeed. On the drive back, he asked me 3 times if I was sure. I told him 3 times that I was. Back at the house, we had soup from the pot I'd left on the stove. He asked about Robert, how we'd met, what he'd been like when he was young. I told him the story about the drive to the coast the summer before we got married, how Robert had gotten the directions wrong, and we'd ended up in a town neither of us had heard of and eaten the best fried fish of our lives, at a place with no name on the sign. Caleb laughed in the real way, the full way. I wish I'd known him longer, he said. He would have liked you a great deal, I said. He liked people who paid attention. We sat there a while longer in the easy kind of quiet that doesn't ask anything of you. When he left, I stood in the doorway the way I had before, watched the car go, came back inside. I went to the kitchen and wrote in the journal I keep at the back of the drawer, not the daily one, the one reserved for the things that shift something. Today I did not win. I did not lose. I remembered what belongs to me, and I said so out loud in rooms that required it. Then I closed it, put it away, and turned off the light. The house held still around me. My house. My name on the deed, the accounts, the documents, all of it carrying my signature alone, written in my hand, in the time I had left to write with. Not diminished, not reduced, not waiting. Just here. Quietly, entirely, still myself.